welcome you back to our local candidate interviews on WFJA and WWGP Radio, brought to you by Sandhills Broadcasting and Brick Capital Video. We're here in the WFJA studio. I'm Matt Garrett. I'm your host for today's North Carolina State District Senate District 12 and the North Carolina House District 51 candidate interviews. I remind our listeners that today through Thursday, every afternoon, these interviews will air live on WFJA and WWGP, as well as streaming on the WFJA website later. Videos of the candidate interviews will be posted each evening on that website, WFJA. Our fourth and final interview for the North Carolina State Senate District 12 race is Republican Ernie Watson. Ernie, welcome to WFJA. Glad to have you here.
Thank you, sir. It's great to be here as well with you, Matt.
Okay, great. So, Ernie, if you're ready, we're just going to jump in and go, okay?
All right.
All right. First of all, there's probably a lot of folks out there like me. I've just met you today for the first time, and they want to know a little bit about you. So tell them anything about your background, just a little general who you are, and then some about why you want to seek the election to the North Carolina Senate.
You got it. So as Matt said, I'm Ernie Watson. I am a North Carolina small business owner, but before that, I was a United States Air Force airman. And from 1998, to 2018, I did 20 years and retired December of 2018. After that, jumped in the RV with the wife and the kids, and we set out to figure out where we wanted to be. And after a long time of searching, we ended up in Cameron, North Carolina, Western Harnett. So, from there, I had started a small business and was doing consulting and DoD contracting, and that was great. And actually, during COVID, it saved us. The fact that I didn't have to go to a work or didn't have to do that was able for us to continue to bring revenue and income in for the family, along with my retirement, and then that led us to being here in Western Harnett. So. Not too much about me. I'm a family man. I've got a wife and two beautiful daughters. I'm a girl dad, and never did I ever think, when I was in the Air Force or even when I was getting out, that I would end up here. And I am so thankful and so just humbled to be in this community. And over the last 3 years, I've really kind of sunk our roots in. And that's what led me to running for office. When you watch and expect your elected leaders to do things and you don't get that result, then that, for me, triggered action. And that action was to come out here and put myself on the line and say, I'm the leader that, I believe to be, and get behind me, because we're going to do some special things out here in District 12 in Lee and Harnett County. So I own a business in Lee. I live in Harnett, and that's me.
And Ernie, let me ask you a question about what we'll be asking about various issues facing our state. You know that local governments have been offering incentive packages to bring businesses and industries to their area for many, many years. We've done that here in Sanford, Lee County. Harnett County has certainly done the same thing. What do you think would be the role of the state legislature, or do you think they have a role in trying to attract business and industry to North Carolina?
Well, I think that any elected official, elected leader, especially for District 12 and Lee and Harnett County, has a role no matter what, whether or not that's within the legislature and, either incentivizing or whatever tactic you want to use to start bringing in entrepreneurial, functions and businesses, providing jobs, good quality of life for our constituents and our residents. You have to do that. I mean, there is so much potential here in Lee and Harnett County that we have to. The fact that the cat's not out of the bag yet is crazy to me, But being able to say, hey, y'all, come over here. We've got good land, we got good people, and we've got hardworking Americans, North Carolinians, that want jobs, good careers, not a job that is not having a longevity to it. Something that they can raise a family, they can buy a home, they can provide for everything that they need to provide for to make sure their quality of life and values are adhered to, represented in state legislation. And guess what? That just automatically, inherently strengthens our economy. And it gives people a purpose in showing up every day. So, luring is, I don't know the best word, but, the incentivizing and or, just saying, hey, y'all, we need these certain businesses to come in, because we can be selective as well. Just because a company wants to come in here and do big things doesn't mean we're going to let them, if they don't have the right sense in mind for what we need.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Another issue, nationwide, but even locally, that for the last couple of years, law enforcement and first responders have taken a real hit in public confidence. There's been calls to defund police, to replace them with other kinds of community policing actions. And it's been a tough time for law enforcement. Do you see it as a responsibility of the legislature to rebuild this respect for policing, or is that more of a local issue? What are your thoughts about that?
So, the community interaction with our law enforcement officers and our first responders is critical. We are, I would never support defunding any of that, because when I pick up the phone, I need somebody to be on that other line. And I think all of Lee and Harnett County residents believe the same thing. And yes, there is isolated incidences where things may be gone bad, or, a decision was made that could have been a better decision to make. And I think understanding that and being able to give feedback to our law enforcement, entities and our sheriffs and our leadership to make sure that's disseminated down, so that the trust is both from the community being relayed to that law enforcement agency, or our law enforcement officers. Then now, if the community understands that and law enforcement understands that, we can start building that bridge back. We can start making sure that, I love my firefighters and police officers and emergency response individuals and hospital work. I mean, they're there to take care of us.
Mm-hmm.
And so, yes, there are situations that went wrong, and we need to be accountable for those actions.
Mm-hmm.
But that doesn't mean we need to overcorrect or jump into a swamp that, isn't what we needed. So, is the state legislature responsible for taking on that action? I would say no, but it's also influential in how that all gets done in the conversations that are had between the leadership.
Okay.
So
Okay.
I hope that's not too of a roundabout answer, but it's a yes and no answer, and it needs to be better understood before we can put tactic to it.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
All right. Very good. North Carolina is still recovering from things that were brought on by COVID-19. What aspects of our economy do you think present the most challenges? And how do you think that our politicians have done in dealing with our recovery during this COVID-19?
Well, first of all, I don't think that our legislation and or the blue and the red sides of things, it's not togetherness, that's for sure. But what everybody does recognize is that there is a problem, and that problem is now disseminating in a post-COVID community. A lot of people lost their jobs, people lost loved ones, and folks died from it. So understanding what it is that we need to be getting to, and I think I would like to say that a singular purpose for post-COVID it needs to be there. And what I mean by that is that folks before COVID were waking up with something to do. After COVID, maybe they don't have a job, maybe they're just, working from home or whatever, but they have nowhere to go. And if you have nowhere to go, then, where's the motivation? Where is the, I need to get up, take a shower, put my shoes on, and walk out this door and do something special with my life.
Mm-hmm.
And that has weighed people down, and they just don't feel that anymore. So I think bringing them back up and lifting all of us up together is my part in post COVID. But and a lot of my veterans, and I love to just say to my veterans that you know giving you purpose is my purpose, and it's a bigger conversation that we want to get into right now. But it's a simplest fact of there is a haze from COVID. I think everybody recognizes that.
Mm-hmm.
But we need to work to clear that up. So there you go.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Another issue that's hot in the news these days is drawing political maps, drawing the districts for voting and so forth. Been a topic of conversation, been in the courts a lot. What are your thoughts, Ernie, on where those maps have ended up now? What do you think that means for our area? And how do you think that political maps should be drawn in a state?
All right. So as far as what happened this last year is a boondoggle. I think we all kind of recognize that. Maybe there was a little bit of overreach, but I don't think that there was malicious intent in redrawing those maps. I think it was a way to allow for groups of people who have maybe the same thought processes, but either way, it didn't work out. Supreme Court rolled it back down to where the maps are right now. Nothing I can do about that, so I just have to accept it and work with, what we have. Moving forward, yeah, a better plan of action should probably be taken on making sure that our maps and the districts that are being represented have thought into them, and then have both sides to include our unaffiliated voters,
Mm-hmm.
right? Not just Republican or Democrat or blue and red. Those who are right in the middle, they get a say too. And I think taking all that information and doing something, considerate to represent our state the best we can and the districts that we can, that needs to be done. I have no other further comment on, what happened in the past. I'm looking more toward the future and what we can do better.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Part of that issue is whether or not the legislature, which is the way it has been up until now, the legislature redraws those maps.
Yes, sir.
And votes on it. Some people have said, no, there ought to be some kind of an independent, nonpartisan commission that does it. Do you have a thought about which of those two ways is better?
My opinion on it is getting the result, right? If an independent commission is going to get the result we need for our constituents and for our residents, then fine. If it's the legislature actually going in there and saying, hey, y'all, we're actually going to, do this right, and it's going to be somewhat equal on both sides, then of course. But it's the result that we need, residents of this county and, you and I, what we need is a result, not a problem that we have to start circling the wagons on and spending more and more taxpayer dollars, more and more of our time trying to figure this out. So there you go.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Do you see or think of any other important issues coming up in the Senate in the next term that you wanted to have a chance to speak about?
So there's quite a few, but one that I think is very unique to Lee and Harnett County is the expansion of 421 into 685, putting a new highway straight through Harnett County. I'm opposed to that. I believe that, yes, creating a better transportation route through our county, 100%. But why can't we just expand the roads that we have? They all lead to Lillington. We all kind of know that. Mm-hmm. But people travel those roads every day. We have schools on those roads. We have people living, communities on those roads. Well, why don't we expand the infrastructure we have right now to include water, sewer, transportation, instead of trying to put something new in the middle of nowhere? And I know that's probably not the most right answer, or the favorable answer, but my opinion is let's shore up what we have right now and figure out if we really need a brand new piece of concrete rolling right through Harnett.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Certainly, legislature may be ended up dealing with that in the near
Yes,
future.
sir.
We've talked a little bit about COVID already. I thought I'd come back and just ask specifically in the service industry. They're having so much trouble getting employees now. I mean, ride by any restaurant,
Yes, sir.
any store almost, and we're hiring. We're hiring. All the convenience stores, we're hiring. Do you have any thoughts about what can be done to help meet this need, get people back to work there, and what's happened to those workers? Where are they?
Well, I think COVID, a couple opinions, and these are my opinions, all right, is that, the workers during COVID probably said, all right, well, this is a great time to learn a new trade or, get smarter on something I want to pursue. A lot of our service industry workers are, your younger individuals, right? They look at it as a job, not a career. Well, when you have a job, you just get to leave. And when you have a career, you're more invested into that. Uh, and you have benefits, and that's providing for your livelihood. So I believe that through all that transition, you had a younger group of individuals who moved on to other things or bigger and brighter futures, and that left a gap there of folks who were like, well, I don't want to I don't want to start this job because it's not worth it, and it's not a career. So let's make careers. Yes, it's a service industry. It's serving food or whatever you may see, but that's still providing a service that is detrimental to this community, and we need to be more serious about that job and maybe make it a career. If people have stability inside of their family, their paycheck, then they're going to stick around, y'all. I mean, that's simple economics.
Right.
There you
Right.
go.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Farming is still a big, important part of the district that you'll be representing if you're elected.
Yes, sir.
What do you see ahead as the biggest challenge facing farmers, and how do you think that you could help forge a good future for farmers here in our district?
Well, let me tell you, I love our farmers. I mean, there's certain times a year you go driving down the road and you just see the growth, right? And it gives you something that says we are growing and we are providing sustenance for our citizens and our residents. So, but I also believe that adding, uh, technologies that are going to allow our farmers to get the most out of their crop. I believe, not making processes like 50 years ago more difficult today than they were back then. Like, we need to get that out of the way. And I think listening to our farmers and focusing on what we can do as a community to, get a cash crop moving forward. And there's been a lot of talk and a lot of, suggestions about what that is. And but I'm looking forward to, if elected senator, I'm looking forward to sitting down with my farmers and my, state reps and going, all right, y'all, how do you want to go about this? And getting a path that's going to provide a good result.
Okay.
So there you go.
We were talking a little ahead of time, and you're pretty involved in your community. What do you think makes a good citizen?
Oh wow, a good citizen. I think it's just maybe sometimes listening more than talking. I think it's going and walking your neighborhood and knowing who's living there. I'll give you an example. Last night, I walk out to the front yard, and my wife's across the street talking to our other neighbor. And what had happened is a car that wasn't used to driving down our road, they noticed it, and it was driving slowly, and so all the the residents, they came out because we got kids playing everywhere around there,
Right.
and safety is our number one concern in our neighborhood, and so my wife knocked on the window like, hey, can we help you? Are you lost, or is there something we can do for you? Ended up being a new neighbor that had moved in or whatnot, just kind of milling around, but that in itself is paying attention to the things that are around you, remaining vigilant, remaining communicating with our teachers and our workers and the people who are living in our communities, and just paying attention to them and just listening sometimes, y'all. I think people have something to say.
Yeah.
You need to pay attention to them,
Yeah.
because it's probably going to help you out in some way or form. So
All right.
I think
Well,
that's just a good citizen. So
well said, Ernie. Well said. I can't believe it. We're already out of time.
yes, sir.
Thank you for your time today, though, being here with us. We appreciate you. And on behalf of the station, we wish you the best in the upcoming election. And I just want to say that been a pleasure to get to know you and talk with you. I joined Sandhills Broadcasting and Brick Capital Video in thanking Ernie Watson for talking with us today. We're going to take a short break. And when we return, we'll begin our interviews for the North Carolina House of Representatives, District 51, as we talk with Republican candidate for State House John Sauls.